I asked questions and he said that feeling of unattractiveness has grown over time. He still loves me more than anything and wouldn't change a thing about our relationship. It's only my stomach that he finds unattractive.
Oh my God.
This has hurt me deeply. I have been crying and I'm having a hard time looking at him and definitely don't want him looking at me. How do I move forward from this?
Honestly, I'm going to be... Okay, so this is not... Look, okay.
Tell us. Say it.
So...
It's okay.
This is a hard part of marriage and even couples counseling is when a man is being honest about what he feels is attractive. And that being hurtful, right? So I understand that it was hurtful to hear him say that, but it was asked of him and he was being honest about what he feels. And I think...
Are you supporting the honesty? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, because listen...
Rachel's...
It's triggering and it's hard.
It's not that he said the wrong... It's just...
He did say the wrong thing.
The reality is what the reality is. I wish I was listening to the song. It seems deep.
No, Javay found this amazing-ass song.
For free.
For free.
Ooh.
Don't be so hard to reach.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Therapy Rebranded, where we're consistently inconsistent. Ding. We have a guest today.
We do have a guest today.
Hi, Toni.
Hi.
We're so excited to have you on.
We're so
I'm
excited.
excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
You're nervous about being on camera.
Yes, 100%. But I'm excited.
Are you going to look at yourself on the monitor? Or you
Probably not.
Okay, you're just going to
Probably
keep
not.
it moving.
I'm definitely going to pretend like the camera's not there.
It doesn't.
So we had you on because when you're a friend of the podcast, you and Rachel are friends.
Mm-hmm.
In real life.
In real life, but also you're a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about like what you do as a therapist, because we've kind of explained me and Rachel do pretty different things. So like, do you see individuals? Do you see couples? Do you outpatient? What do you do?
Yeah, so I am outpatient. I see individuals and couples, but I focus on individuals. My population is African American, both female, male. I am someone who focuses on faith-based counseling, somatic attachment, a lot of body informed. I'm a yoga instructor as well.
Okay.
And transgenerational trauma. So that's one of my fun things. That's how, yeah.
And you own your own practice.
Oh, I own my own practice.
You do?
I do.
Yes.
Yeah. However, after having my baby, I'm on pause for that. So I'm taking a break and I'm focusing on my full-time gig.
I feel that.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah, you're also a mommy.
I'm a mommy.
How old's your baby?
She's 9 months.
She graciously is giving up her nighttime with her baby tonight. Will she be put to bed before you get home?
Yeah, unfortunately.
So the third thing that you brought up in the triad was faith-based.
Faith-based, yes.
So talk to us a little bit about what that means.
Yeah. So faith-based, to me, again, there is literally, I've gone on PESI, I've gone on all the things. There is limited research and trainings on that. So I've pretty much found out I'm still exploring my identity in faith-based. I am a Christian. I was raised, I raised myself as a Christian and grew up in the church. And so becoming a therapist, it just made sense. Seeing all the people around me in my church just made sense to say, yeah, if you're Christian and you believe in God, you can talk to me. I'm not going to shy away. So what I've explored and what I've discovered, and again, trying to meet ethics with what we do as faith-based counselors is, one, I make sure I emphasize not a pastor, not a spiritual leader. However, I am respectful and understanding and in belief that God is real, and I do practice Christian beliefs. And so identifying that and just the awareness that I have knowledge of the Bible, and then also have knowledge of mental health research. So I can merge the two without discrediting your belief. And I feel like I noticed that there are, like I had a session recently and the client was very uncomfortable sharing her beliefs. And sometimes that happens often. I'm like, just to let you know, I'm a faith-based counselor, so you can give it all to me. Like, I'll receive everything. And then they feel comfortable kind of sharing, like, okay, well, let me tell you what God told me. And so really, I just try to make sure I emphasize like my role is your therapist, not a spiritual leader, but that doesn't mean that I won't bring up, or if with your permission, like I still have the knowledge of the word, I still have the knowledge of what Christianity means to me, and I'm still open to learning what Christianity means to you. That also means that in addition to working with clients who are already in their faith and in belief and in their walk, I'm working with clients who are in the process of wanting to stretch in their walk, and also clients who are like, I'm not in belief anymore. And it's another thing to make sure I'm emphasizing, like, I'm not here to make you believe or not believe. That's not my position. I'm here to support you. So I deal with faith-based trauma, or if you are just in the space where you are using it as a processing tool, like if your religion is what you go to process, I'm with you there. Or if you're like, I am in the process of wanting to really get to know and stretch my beliefs, that's where I'm at with it right now.
It sounds like faith-based it almost feels more like you're discussing being well-versed and comfortable in it more than it being an intervention. Is that kind of?
Well, it does become an intervention as well. So in those times where I find myself using it as intervention is like recently I was talking to a client, and one of the things that I did to support her was based off of what she was sharing with me. I had shared a scripture with her and had that as her homework of like, I want you to read this, and I want you to instead of focusing on the characters in the Bible, I want you to focus on the character of God. And I want you to check in with who he's showing himself to be, how he's showing up for his child in that story, and tell me how that resonates with you. Let's check in the next time we meet. Or sometimes it's like a podcast that I might hear that is Christian based, and I might have a client listen to that, or we might use prayer in session if that feels appropriate. Or again, we might focus really on a scripture. So in those ways, I do feel like it's an intervention, and it is like let's figure out what feels appropriate to you. As some people might say, let's meditate, and I might say, let's meditate on the word if that feels appropriate, and that's something what the client has told me they want to do.
Right. Last question on the faith thing. Would you ever work with somebody who wanted to process like a faith that wasn't Christianity with you? Okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, I identify as a faith-based counselor, a Christian counselor, because that is my belief, and I don't want to pretend like I understand or I know in full other people believe, but also I respect it, and I'm open to do research if you share with me. So if you have a different belief system than me, that doesn't mean that I'm not open to, communicate with you. I truly believe and respect what it is that you believe. And so again, my focus isn't on telling you that it's true or not, or trying to convince you to believe or not believe. I'm trying to like be the gap in between where I've noticed therapists or just the history of it challenging faith and challenging people's beliefs to make them seem like they're delusional, or if there's people that have their own feelings about it, kind of reject it and try to sway you in the other way. Like, I'm here to let you know that you have a space to be able to be your full self. Like my client who was like uncomfortable kind of sharing that, but I'm like, that seems really important to what this space is going to look like, and like you really need to have that moment here. So bring that in here, bring your full self. And if your full self is a part of your religion, bring that in too. So whatever that looks like, I'm open to it.
I love that. I've been talking a lot more on the podcast the last couple months about religion, because I grew up with a family. One side of my family is Baptist and the other side of my family is like Christian, but I don't have any really strong faith. I'm more agnostic. And so I've realized that people don't bring up spirituality and religion to me, but I end up, if I ask the question and they feel comfortable sharing, it opens like a whole new door in sessions, specifically because a lot of people I work with are experiencing suicidal thoughts or have attempted suicide. And so being curious about like how they view themselves and how they view the act of what they done, how they view all of that in terms of their religion, opening that door. It's gotten me actually pretty far with kids who are like really ingrained in religion. I start to, and it's very interesting too, because people say different things. Like some people say, like, I think that I'm sinning by self-harming. Some people say like, no, I think God is going to forgive me and like understand understands how much pain I'm in. Like I've genuinely have kids tell me that they wanted to, part of the reason that they wanted to go is because they like wholeheartedly believe in heaven and like that
That's where they'll go.
they'll feel better. Yeah, they'll feel better when they get there. And then I have other kids who maybe have, this is more like kids with OCD, but they have intrusive thoughts and things like that. And they feel guilt and shame about their thoughts. Like there's something bad about that. And so like, I've been trying to be more open about that and open the door because I do think people are afraid of judgment.
Yeah.
Like they will not bring it up if you don't bring it up.
You do have to be mindful of when it's necessary. And so if there is someone that's like towing the line of like, my beliefs are important to me and it does help me and it supports me, but I know that it's been uncomfortable to constantly read the Bible, look at this verse, this and that. It doesn't have to always come from the Bible. It doesn't have to always be prayer. You being a Christian doesn't have to always look like that. I'm a Christian whether I'm talking about the Bible or not, and I can talk to you in general ways without bringing up this scripture, that scripture, this specific thing. Like we can talk about what's actually happening to you mentally right now.
I feel that because I think what the dynamic I would be afraid to create too is if it was me and another person with similar beliefs who's Christian, would never want them to start feeling like our Christianity is part of our like therapeutic bond to the point that they're trying to be a good Christian in session. Like you want them to be their authentic selves, even if they feel shame about it.
Yeah.
So you want to also don't want to create the dynamic where you get put on a pedestal as like how you've already said you're not a spiritual leader, but that kind of thing. So let's get into the first round.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. We've been going. Okay.
We got 2 Reddits today.
Okay. Just found out my husband, a 28-year-old male, has been paying for another lady, a female 40 to 50. Oh, she hates this bitch.
Car.
What would you do? The car payment is $900. I went snooping through his phone and found this out. This woman is a very old family friend of his, but I have conspiracy that they were in an intimate relationship. He's a 20-year-old male, and she is, I don't even know, well into her 40s or early 50s.
Yeah, she's being real shady about the age.
She's had the car since 2021 or 2022, and from my understanding, she had poor credit and couldn't get approved. Well, I just found out he's been paying for it by looking at his bank statements. I'm not sure when she stopped sending him money for it since the statements only go back to this 2024 year, but I suspect he's been paying for it for a while now. I guess my question is, what would you do? He hasn't been in contact with her in over a year, I'm sure of this. He has no emotional connection to her. He's just a nice guy and didn't want the confrontation, I guess. We just got married in April. Should I give him a chance to fix this? I'm not sure what to do or where to start. I left out some important details. I confronted him last night about it, and he lied to me without hesitation. He eventually told me the truth after asking him to prove that he wasn't paying the auto lease. I make more than him and pay for all of the bills. I mean, he pays for the electric bill and groceries, but since getting married, I asked him to help out more. Numerous times I've asked, before marriage and after. He's declined and told me he needs to pay off credit card debt. I feel betrayed.
So she's asking, my question is, what would you do? And then should I give him a chance to fix this? I'm not sure what to do or where to start. Where would you start if you had a client come in and tell you this story, Toni?
I'm going to be 100% honest.
I know this is touchy for you.
These are very uncomfortable because I'm like, it's not enough information.
Correct.
I don't know what's going on.
Correct.
And also, sharing what you're sharing, I feel like you know what you want to do. And maybe we need to focus less on what you should do and more on how you're feeling about yourself and your own self-esteem. Like, what is happening within you is what I would encourage, because me giving you a direct answer is not going to be able to, it's not going to support you because you're not going to do it.
It does literally, when I was just telling Rachel this, like the hardest thing about being a family therapist is when like the parents want me to parent.
Right.
Like they're looking to me to give them the answer. Like I was just telling her that I have a client who had right before this, who has a big decision coming up, and the adult is the one having to make the decision, and they're giving different perspectives from everyone in their life. And they want me to give them an answer so bad.
I bet you get that a lot.
Yeah.
And I refuse.
Yeah.
Of course I have an internal thought.
Right.
Of course I'm a human. I have my internal thought. But my answer is, let's think of all of like all the ways that you're thinking about this and how this impacts you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'll point out maybe some pros and cons if you're like missing them,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't tell you what to do.
Mhm.
One, I feel like that's not ethical. It's their life.
Not.
And then two, I believe that I'll just end up, you'll recreate whatever dynamic with me that you have with other people, which is that like, you're going to feel some type of way towards me about this advice at some point if I were to do it.
You don't really want my advice.
Well, because you're kind of asking, thinking that I know best.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're putting me in this position of power. Like I know best about your life. I don't.
And I don't.
Don't. And I love that you said that, because the reality is I feel like I'm more so in a space of like self-acceptance. Like, okay, this happened. Talk to me about the shame that you feel because of this happening. Talk to me about what the narrative is in your mind. What is this telling you about yourself? What do you think about yourself? Let's focus on that, because regardless, when you leave this space, you have free will to make whatever decision feels appropriate. And you also already have somebody in your head telling you what to do. You already know what the person. So let's just focus on something else. What is it that you really want?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, what is it that you feel about yourself? And let's do that work, because the making the decision piece, that's going to be distracting.
That's so true.
Mm-hmm. This person here said, your husband lied to you without hesitation. He's been giving another woman nearly $1,000 a month while refusing to contribute more to the household. You have been betrayed. Without repentance, some major changes, and likely counseling, your marriage is in trouble.
So Rachel, you love to be messy. Me too.
I love being messy.
What would you do? This isn't a client. This is your friend. They come tell you about it.
Bitch,
What do you
leave.
think?
He hates you. What do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
If this was a friend,
I'm gonna keep it 100. If this is a friend,
you keep it a buck.
No. If this is a friend, I'm not telling. I am keeping it.
Sorry,
a buck.
Sorry.
But if you're really keeping it a buck with your friend, it sounds like the main reason that this is a problem is that from the information you've given us is that he's giving more to this family friend than he is to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he already wasn't contributing prior to you getting married. So let's have a conversation about why you thought that was going to change. That's where your accountability comes in. That's first.
Mm-hmm.
And then second, I'm not telling my friend to leave him because she's not going to leave him because they just got married. And then I'm going to be the weirdo on the out friend that she feels weird and shamey around because she didn't leave her man and she thinks I'm judging her, because we all know it's hard out here.
It is.
It's hard out here.
It's really not that I'm going to be like, leave him. But I think it's what you said. You start pointing shit out. And I've done that with, you just continually, I'm going to support you. It's, you did this for me when I was going through mine. I think you did similar for me when I was going through my.
I told you to your face. I was like, I didn't like that he did this, but I'll be cheering at your wedding. Like, it's whatever you want. I literally said that.
See,
I don't care.
I've stolen that. I think I've stolen that.
I'll be clapping. I'll be nice to him.
I'm not going to make your life harder. I am not going to make
your life harder. And he didn't do it to me. So if you're over it, I'm over it.
Exactly.
Literally.
I'm not going to be more hurt than you, but I am going to support you. Go ahead.
Me and my best friends are we just talked about this. So really where we are is, hey, listen, talk to your therapist about that. Honest to goodness, because
you're not sharing tea with relationships anymore.
We don't want to. We have been friends for over 15 years. So we have been a part of it.
Tell me about being grown. What's it like?
My friend and I, we've been best friends, and we've been knowing each other since we were 12 years old. Okay. And my other best friend, we've been knowing each other since we were 14. So you can imagine we've experienced a lot of life with each other.
Yeah.
And in
a
that
lot of
process, we've learned, like, I trust you. You're my best friend. I trust you. I know that you are going to do the thing that's best for you in your life. And I know that you're only giving me a piece of information. Mm-hmm. And I respect that. And I take that. And guess what? Finish that full conversation with your therapist and process that. But for the sake of our relationship, because I can't help but have judgment towards it. I can't help but have assumptions. I can't help but project. And that is going to ding and impact our relationship. Mm. So you can share all you want. And sometimes, if it's a sense of like, if there is a point of danger, I'll definitely share it. First off, I think that that's unsafe. And I don't say like, I'll be at your wedding, because I feel like sometimes that can be condescending a little bit. Like,
But I'm going to be side-eyeing.
Yeah, because that's what it means. Because it's like, bitch, you're not coming to my wedding, because I feel like your energy is going to be negative.
But it's not. So, I think that's what you have to prove, is that it's not going to be. That you're actually not going to be different. Because we were going on couples dates while she was telling me how bad it was.
We went to New York together.
Like, okay. Y'all like each other. Okay.
We don't know
wait, who? Y'all don't know?
No, she knew Luke. Like, she knows Luke.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, we like hung out as couples. Like, I genuinely,
And it's
Yeah.
a decent time.
Yeah.
I was genuinely like, that's y'all shit.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that's the
Mhm.
point, is like
Yeah.
really emphasizing and being able to take it. And I think that's how me and my best friends are, is like, we're like, girl, we love you. It's all right. We
Yeah.
know, but it's so much.
It's like, I'm
and
gonna
in
keep it
this
a buck with
situation,
you.
if
Yeah.
you're bringing this up to me, this is very much like, this some heavy shit.
You want to tell me something.
You know what you are wanting to do, but I also want to know, who are you already talking to and what are they projecting to you? Because is it undercover shame? Like, are you feeling shame for what you're doing, what you're experiencing? Because don't ask me what you should do when
Yeah.
you know what I'm logically going to say you should do.
Right.
Talk to me about the real. Tell me I feel shameful. Tell me I feel bad. Tell me, like, give me the roots of it. Give me something that I can hold on to, because I can't give you an answer that I know you already know logically I'm going to give you.
Right. Right. No, I feel you on that. This makes me think of like the faith piece too, because I think the answer to this question, if you are a person of faith, is different, right? Like, it depends on how you view marriage and like what you believe in terms of like staying. Because that would changes the answer, I think, for the individual.
That does. Yeah, for some people.
Which is, I don't want to switch into that yet. Never mind.
Oh, you're gonna think about Meagan Good?
Meagan Good,
We'll get
and
there.
that, and there were so many other things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go
Can
ahead.
I ask a question on that? Well, first of all, I'd like to know, Toni, what do you talk about with your friends then? I wouldn't even know what to
And
say.
it's so interesting because me and my best friends, we were just talking, and again, knowing each other for that many years, we're like, and I had a cousin who asked me, like, who do you tell your friends? I'm like, honestly, my friend does not want to know. And when we talk, we just talk. We don't even know how the conversation started, where they go. It's just, we talk about ourselves outside of the identity of relationship, outside of the identity of motherhood, outside of all these things. Like, and I think that's why our friendship is so strong, is because we aren't like married to specific identities in our relationship. Like, you're not coming to me to just check in about how my relationship is going or how motherhood is going. You want to know Toni. You want to know what's happening with Toni. So it's refreshing to be able to have conversation with people who don't just look at you and say, hey, how's that situation going specifically? They're like, no, how's Toni going? How's Toni doing? And if that comes with that, then sure. But sometimes it really is like, girl, I'm having the time of my life. I'm having so much fun outside of it. But it just feels like you're put in a box when somebody is aware of a hardship that you're experiencing. And when they see you, they're like, how is that going? It's like, bitch, I'm having a good time. Sorry, can I curse?
Yes.
Yes.
Please.
Do you know who I am?
I know, right? I know. But I was like,
Everybody has that.
I'm having a lovely time in life right now. Like, but if you're always constantly, every time you're around that friend, like bringing up that, it takes away your ability to exist in any other way. So
I feel that.
yeah.
I feel that.
So a question on the Reddit thing, because I read this very differently than you guys. I'm actually surprised sort of by your reaction, because okay, let me disclaimer. I did not catch it was a $900 car payment right at first.
Okay.
I was thinking like a $400 car payment or something. So we'll kind of put that out there. But to me, she reads as someone who you cannot tell the truth to. Not that he's lying because he's a scumbag, like it's because she's a nut. And to me, the whole thing of going,
Toni was like,
should
what?
I give him a chance?
I was agreeing, but then I was like, oh, wait.
No, yeah, it's okay. You can disagree with me. Everyone's good at that here. The fact that she asked, should I give him a chance? You're like, this woman is doomed for a horrible marriage.
I don't know. I feel like that's an unfair amount of blame on her, and I feel like,
of course it is. I'm a man.
I feel like I feel like what really changes the line for me is I make more than him, pay all the bills. I mean, he pays the electric bill, blah, blah, blah. I asked him to help out more numerous times. I've asked before marriage and after. He's declined and told me he needs to pay off credit card debt. If you're telling her you don't have money and you're spending money on this car payment, that's why you're lying.
Yep.
No,
this
for
is
sure.
Unacceptable.
A $900 car payment is bananas
That's
too,
awesome.
by
And
the way.
and who knows, right? And she thinks like her being 40 or 50 is like her telling something spicy.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. And like, he probably knows this person's situation. And if I had to guess, like I don't have the details, but if I had to guess,
He bumped with her.
no, he co-signed her loan. and she fell through on it. And so he's having to pay this because otherwise it would
It's his
screw up his
credit.
credit.
And he can't tell her the
Yeah.
truth.
I didn't even think that deep.
I really think
Yo,
it's
she
that.
be knowing
I
this
did
shit.
not
I'm
think
trying
that
to
deep.
tell you.
But I think he
girl.
co-signed
I like
alone.
it.
Because
I
why
think we
else?
solved it.
Why else?
Yep.
That makes
And he
a lot
can't
of
tell her
sense.
that. And he
Can't tell her the truth.
He
It's
can't
both.
tell her the truth. Yeah. He can't tell her the truth, and he co-signed the loan because you can't tell the truth because when you tell her the truth, she's going to tell you to stop doing it. And then you have to tell her there's a second part of the story.
Exactly.
Damn.
And then also, cherry on top, they're white people.
Yes, they're white.
No doubt about
No,
it.
they're just not. We always guess on the race.
You guys are toxic. All right.
I know.
On to the next. All right. We're on to the next Reddit. So keep it short and sweet. My husband, 23 male, told me 22 female he finds very... Okay, sorry. My husband, who's a 23-year-old male, told me I, a 22-year-old female, he finds me physically unattractive after weight gain. What do I do?
Break up.
My husband, 23-year-old male, and I, 22-year-old female, just got married a few months ago. We've been together 5 years. I was very thin when we first got together. Duh, what's 5 years ago? You were 17? You were a child. Sorry, child.
Oh.
Child.
So he likes. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna save the comments for the end.
Since then, I have gained weight, about 40 pounds due to birth control, anxiety, depression. I'm going to add gaining your woman weight, having a healthy body,
Being an
probably
adult.
eating more than you did as a teenager. Since gaining weight, I have had a hard time being confident in myself because I was so used to being thin. The other night, out of the blue, and honestly, right after sex, girl, why'd you do this to yourself? I asked if he still found me attractive. He said no. It was late. Do you get out of bed?
We fight. We fight.
Oh, I think I would just quietly go to bed and cry.
I have too much low self-esteem.
It was
Let me
late.
fight first.
It was late. I was hurt, and I just wanted to go to bed, so I left it at that. Last night, I moved to our spare bedroom and slept after he fell asleep. I didn't want to be near him. Today, I told him we needed to talk. I asked questions, and he said that feeling of unattractiveness has grown over time. He still loves me more than anything and wouldn't change a thing about our relationship. It's only my stomach that he finds unattractive.
Oh my God.
This has hurt me deeply. I have been crying, and I'm having a hard time looking at him and definitely don't want him looking at me. How do I move forward from this?
I feel like I get too triggered to like give real answers. To be honest,
Seems like a good guy.
I'm going to go back to Tony's original
monster.
advice.
focus on yourself.
Focus on yourself. And I guess I'm going to ask her
Sorry, that sounds so weird.
why she kind of indirectly ask what's the draw to get through this or move forward.
Honestly, I'm gonna be okay. So this is not look okay.
Tell us. Say it.
So
It's okay.
this is a hard part of marriage and even couples counseling is when a man is being honest about what he feels is attractive
Get 'em, girl.
and that being hurtful, right? So I understand that it was hurtful to hear him say that, but it was asked of him and he was being honest about what he feels. And I think,
Are you supporting the honesty? Is that what you're trying to say?
yeah, because listen,
Rachel's.
it's triggering and
It's
it's
not
hard.
that he said the wrong. It's just
He did say the wrong thing.
The reality
He
is
did.
what the reality is. He was asked a question, and what did you want him to say?
I don't know. The other thing about this, though, is there had to be something that shifted for her to ask this question.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So, like,
So
what,
maybe it was his opportunity. But I don't think...
ask that question, though. Ask what it is about, because he's saying that the relationship hasn't changed. He loves you more than anything. You are his favorite human being. And, like, he's really going in and saying, like, no, you are everything to me. However, this change in your body is new to me. And they did meet each other so young. And he's like, yeah, that's different for me. That's something that I wasn't expecting and that's not something that I thought was going to happen. And that's unattractive to me. That's my reality. He's not saying that I hate you because you are this, that I'm going to treat you differently, this, that, and what. So I'm curious of, like, why did you ask this question? And was something different happening in the relationship?
Had to be.
Can you identify what that difference was and let him know, although you're saying these things and that you care about me and that, but this did change. You're saying that you wouldn't change anything, but I'm noticing this as a change. So is this impacting your ability to love me? Because that's where I would say I would intervene and be like, that's a problem. But him saying, and again, marriage is different, marriage is different and there is some honesty, and a partnership it's hard to be able to say things like that, but that's your partner. And do you feel like he had ill intent when he said that? Can you express that your feelings was hurt when he said that? And then also ask yourself the question of, why did I directly ask that? And was there an underlying reason? It's easy to get triggered by the overarching, but okay, let that have festered in him, and he kept that to himself.
Mhm.
He never told you that he was unattracted to you, and things just continued to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper for him. And then all of a sudden he started showing and expressing in a very vivid way that he was unattracted, and he left.
So what do you do now?
Wait, hold on, pause. The other thing I want to add context to that I think is interesting, because I was putting this together as you were talking. If they got married a few months ago and she's gained 40 pounds, I'm guessing that she had most of this weight a few months ago.
Yeah.
And they still got married.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
He is in love with her. He doesn't want to leave. I want to know specifically for her what's happening. Why did you act? Did something change in the relationship that you noticed that he started treating you different? Because that's what you have to identify with him is, you're saying the right things, but you're treating me this way. Why? Because I need to understand if this weight is going to be an issue with how you're treating me. That's what I want to focus on. You're telling me that you love me, that you wouldn't change anything about the relationship, but you're treating me different. I'm assuming that. That's what I would want her to really focus on and concentrate. And then, like, let him know, like, it did hurt my feelings to hear that you aren't attracted to me. Be honest about that, too, because he was honest with you. And let him know how he could speak to you differently if that was something that was harmful and something that made you feel sad. Let him know there's a different way to approach me.
I guess I'm a petty bitch because I don't think I could get past this.
I don't think
I'm a petty
What?
bitch. I couldn't get past this. The thing that comes up for me, and maybe this is me being childish, but the thing that comes up for me is there was no consideration for my feelings and how you dropped this.
No doubt.
And I don't think that, and maybe he's also 23. So he
And
very
we don't
much
know
didn't
the way
have
that
the
they communicate.
Yeah.
They might communicate very blunt and honest. Like, who's to say that she, like, I want to know how she communicates with him if she doesn't like something.
Yeah. But
I have a thought that
I don't know how you feel safe sexually
it's that,
after either.
and you could. She physically wasn't feeling safe. She did the thing that you said that you would do. She moved bedrooms the next day. But like, my thing is, it's interesting that they just got married.
Mhm.
They have a kid. Is that in there
Did you
some
say
way?
that?
No.
I didn't
They don't
know
have a
that.
kid.
Birth control. She's trying
Birth
not to
control.
have
She's
a
trying
baby.
not
No, she
have
just
a
looks
baby.
pregnant.
Stop it. Stop
Ow,
it.
I hate you.
Tony's horrified.
Sorry, Tony. I am
He's a
this way.
comedian.
Yeah.
Obviously.
He's divorced.
Oh.
I thought you were gonna say comedian. That was a good one, Rach. That was a good one.
Rachel, that's 2 shows in a row with funny comments.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
That was
Yeah.
funnier than the last one.
I'm
Okay.
trying to let the real thoughts in my head out more and more.
Thank God.
Thank God.
If you guys read this, had I known ahead of time, and I could have somehow switched this and said it's a guy gaining 40 pounds, and do you still think I'm hot, honey? You guys would be ripping him to shreds.
No,
I bet.
I wouldn't.
I
Yes,
wouldn't
you
be.
would.
And
No,
I
I
would say
wouldn't.
yes,
I'm not saying
babe. I
Tony
like a
would.
little
I'm just
extra
saying.
weight on my man.
If you
I don't
not
care about
feel
chubs
that-
on your man.
I don't either.
No, but honestly, and I've had a conversation recently, if it is for the sake of, because sometimes we might revert it. So as women, we might be like, for the sake of your health, no, I'm not okay with the fact that you've gained 40 pounds within the last year. I feel like that's unhealthy and that's unsafe, and I need you to switch your diet. We might say something like that, but that's no different in their way of hearing it, because I've had this experience, than them saying that they're not attractive anymore, because I'm saying something to you of that can hurt you. I can't, my intent and my impact doesn't matter. So whether I intended, I'm so sorry. Whether I intended to say it in a way that made you feel supportive or not does not matter to the impact that I'm causing, because regardless, you're still going to be affected. So why lie if you do not like that? This is your person. This is forever.
But what if it's set out of cruelness?
That's different.
So how do you,
That's
like, if you're a
different.
couples therapist, how do you suss that out?
You okay, so that's what I would say. What is your intent, or what did you assume his intent was when he said that? What happened? Did you feel like he said it in a malicious way? Based off of what he just said and expressed, he made sure he emphasized, I love you. I love this relationship. I love everything about you. He emphasized that to let it be known that I'm saying that I'm not attracted, because you used the word, are you attracted to me? And he literally used it right back to say, no, this doesn't feel, I'm not attracted to that part of you anymore. It hurts because
Rachel's not buying it.
I'm not
this is your person.
I'm not mad at what you're saying, because
I'm not encouraging
I
lying.
agree. I'm not
Yeah.
encouraging lying.
Mm-mm.
I'm not but I am encouraging, like, I don't know if like, is it over really 40 pounds in 1 year?
It's not 1 year.
I
It's
was
over
gonna say,
5 years.
over
I
5
thought
years.
just playing
That's what I'm
offensive
saying.
line.
We're
with
like,
this,
hey,
yeah.
how are you even noticing that?
Maybe
That's
she-
an incremental amount of change.
No,
Also,
she
No.
noticed that.
She noticed
She
it.
identified that.
but
She identified all of this. He didn't bring it up.
I'm salty, but I wish I had pictures. I know
do
that's
too.
petty.
No, I do, but I want to know how little and how big.
Well, okay. So no, I don't know. The thing
This
that
also
sticks out
sounds
for
like a
me
white person.
is
There's
a
also a white
lack of consideration for feelings.
Yes.
Pulling up.
Black guy
my-
wouldn't care.
I don't think it was
Yes.
a lack of consideration because I think that he emphasized. I think she
Yeah.
brought that question up because she had some underlying feelings. And I would say, this is your marriage, boo. You bring up what it is that is deeply rooted
To
in
be-
that question.
To be clear, he said all the nice things when they talked about it again.
Kind of sound like damage control a little bit.
Because the first time he just said no and they went to sleep.
That was something that he
Savage.
could
But
have
that's
said.
savage, Tony. That's mean.
That
Why does she
isn't-
ask the question while she's
That's what
fucking
I'm
sleepy?
saying.
But
Come
okay, but
on now,
this is
you have
something
to be
that actually-
mindful.
But this is
Why are
something
you
that
asking
Gervais
that?
taught me about.
Like dynamics like this in my family, and also something that I've just learned is like being mean isn't like you don't have to.
What's his intent to be mean? His impact was that it was hurtful.
If
but
we
was
got
that his
married,
intent?
if we got married, and we just are married,
Yeah.
and you tell me no, just
Mhm.
flat out no, I'm not attracted to you. No cushioning, no nothing. Maybe this is just me. Hands.
She knows him. He knows her. They have been together for several years. He knows what triggers her and what hits her buttons. And the thing is, I think it is a situation of accountability though, for real. Being mindful, women,
I don't ask questions I don't want the answer
come on
to.
now, like be careful.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
asked that question in the middle of the night and you wanted him to do what?
Well,
'Cause
she asked
ask
after sex, so she
is-
wanted reassurance.
Yes, so ask what you really want to know. That's my point. I would really, if she was my client, we're talking about what did you really want to know?
I want to
She knew
know
the answer.
why he's semi-hard and not
Exactly.
finishing.
That's what you want to know.
Why we're only
Bring
doing
him
back
to that.
shots.
Oh
Literally.
my gosh.
I know
that up.
4
Your ass
guys.
got fatter.
I know 4 guys
They
who,
like that.
who have
They like
basically
that.
been in this position.
And they
I do
all
too.
said no.
And no, like, I'm not saying they've been asked, but I'm saying have been maybe silently struggling with a situation like this.
Silently.
And one of them,
Struggling is hilarious. Sorry.
oh yeah. Well, what? Like, I mean, is there not, so like I've been married, right? And the way that you evolve together or apart as your marriage grows is huge. And talk about something that most people don't think about when you get into a marriage, right? And it's like, both of you are kind of going to revert to your parents a little bit more. So be aware of that in a lot of cases. But it's like, is there some responsibility to be as, like, there was an argument I had with my ex-wife at the end where she goes, you haven't changed one bit. And I go, yeah, as advertised.
Mm.
As advertised. Like,
Christ.
and whereas to me, it was like, you've changed completely into a person who I don't want to be married to, right? And even though that wasn't my choice and all that stuff, but it's like, but that is the truth.
Mhm.
And it's like, where's the responsibility to keep yourself in shape, to stay vital, to,
The one
like they just have to love me and I can just go to crap.
But what if I'm
The-
fucking
I
you with
have
a
something
vengeance?
too.
no, but I think we should move on after this.
Okay.
But because I want to talk about Meagan Good, and there's a lot of the not similar themes, but
themes.
relationship
Yeah.
kind of thing. So we can go to that next. But I get what Tony's saying. I
do
get
too.
what you guys are saying. There is value in honesty. And that was being honest about that at the beginning of the marriage sets you up for success with longevity, right?
Mhm.
Because if you are
Yes.
knowing that you are going to be dissatisfied with that, there's only so long you can be dissatisfied in the relationship
Yes.
Yeah.
without it tarnishing the relationship. I think that the execution was poor,
Yes.
Yeah.
and I think that
Yes.
there was
Abysmal.
a lack of consideration for her, and there's a part of me that feels like if his behavior has changed, and again, this is asking a lot of a 23-year-old, probably
is.
too much of a 23-year-old.
It is.
But there's a part of me that feels like if this was this important to him, he should have proactively brought it up instead of waiting until his behavior got to the point that she asked. And that's making a lot of assumptions.
You don't understand men. He's so uncomfortable. He just blurted that out.
I do understand men, but I'm saying it's a cop out to wait until she asks.
Yes,
I think it's the pussy thing to do.
Yes, he is a pussy.
That's what
he's
I'm saying.
afraid. Yeah, okay, you're right. You do understand that.
I do. I think this is about
a white
fear,
pussy.
and this is about fear. This is about taking an opportunity to be honest because you got to ask the question you've been dying to answer.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, he just rushed it.
That's not the kind way to do it. I think.
Oh, you're 100%
The kind way to do it is to be like, I think and I don't think there's any way that's not going to hurt.
Yes.
But I think the kind way to do it is to say like, I feel like it's been apparent that my behavior has changed in XYZ ways. I would have probably even said that night, like, I'm so like, yes, or let's talk about it tomorrow or whatever. And then I would have couched it and been like, can we talk about it? And who knows if she's a partner who lets you do that? Maybe she would have been anxious and freaking out. I don't know. I probably would have couched it and brought it up the next day. Like, why did you ask that? Have you noticed a difference? And be honest when she asks. Okay. And on to that.
Why do I have to put on a paper bag every time?
And I think the main feeling I would feel if I was her is embarrassment.
Yes. Deep embarrassment.
All right. So the next thing we want to talk about is Meagan Good was on Club ShayShay yesterday as we're shooting this. So this was kind of new.
Oh, I didn't even see how recent it was.
Yeah.
I didn't see how recent it was.
Yeah, it was yesterday. I shot. I was like, ooh, perfect. And then she went on there.
Here.
And I'm not going to lie, I kind of went on there looking for tea. Like, I'm like, is she going to talk about Jonathan Majors? Is she going to talk about her divorce? She definitely talked about her divorce.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about Jonathan.
Not a thing.
Real quick. I heard a real quick, like, don't do my man. That's what I heard.
Oh, I missed that.
When she
And then
called him
she takes-
attractive.
Yeah,
And then
she takes his advice, pretty much. That's what I heard. Like, she takes his advice.
Oh, and that's when she was talking about friends.
I don't know.
That's
I
true.
don't-
Okay, carry on.
But she went on there and I was like, oh, I wonder if they talked ahead of time about the fact like she's not going to go into the Jonathan Majors thing. I don't know.
I'm sure.
I couldn't tell. But she
She's
talked
probably
a
there.
lot about faith. And I didn't know her faith was that deep. I had no idea. Did you guys?
I did.
I did.
Okay.
I did only because of her marriage to Devon Franklin. Is that her ex-husband's name?
Yeah.
I didn't know, and not that this means anything because I'm not tapped into that or anything, but like I didn't think, that she was, I assumed that she was a Christian, but I didn't think that she was as devout as I thought she was. And I think that I saw a lot of people like questioning that when she first got married to him and then when she got divorced. So like her faith has kind of been questioned the entire time, which they talked about a little bit.
Were you surprised they got divorced?
I was so shocked.
I was shocked.
I was shocked, but I was also like,
It seems like he left her. That
he
was what
did.
it was
He
alluded
divorced
to.
her. Yeah, it sounded like that's what she emphasizes. Like she would have never divorced, but he made that decision, which is heartbreaking because I've seen like he was very much protective over her, very much like standing 10 toes down for the relationship, and so yeah, I don't know. It's. He has a large following, from my understanding, writing books, being a pastor, as well as being a movie producer.
And
Okay.
He produces like Christian films, kind of.
Nope. He did Jump in a Broom. That's where they met.
With Paula Patton.
There was something that was coming up and I could have just been putting it on her, but it almost felt like there was some shame around getting divorced or some like negative feelings around not it being wrong, but maybe like deeply disappointing. And
And I think her situation is more rooted in culture and faith, and coming from the Black experience and just what we have seen, which is, we know such and such has been married for 30 to 50 years and all that stuff, but we also know that what was their values in marriage. One wanted to get out the house, and the only way they can get out the house is by marrying. And one wanted to not work, and that's how they were able to, or whatever. So, like, I think seeing that, and then she also expressed, like, she didn't want to be a divorced family because she witnessed what divorce was for her family. So I think in addition to that, you have faith, which there are certain things that in certain Christian churches, they teach of this is what you can and should get a divorce for, and this is what you shouldn't. And just that stick it out mentality goes with the culture as well of, what are we divorcing for? We're going to stick it out. We're going to keep working this out. We're going to keep doing this. So I think it's a lot rooted in just cultural beliefs as well as faith beliefs for her.
I also think there's a status that comes with being a successful Black couple. And what I mean is not
Yeah.
like financially successful, yes, but more importantly, like
Sticking together.
being a Black couple who's rooted in love and seen as like strong, loyal, faithful to each other. Like you kind of are put on a pedestal, I would say, in most
And
communities.
They were.
They were put on a pedestal, but they were also judged heavily because of who Meagan Good was. So I feel like there was some ego in there of, oh my gosh, we're doing what they expected to happen anyway, because they villainized her as this
How was she a villain?
harlot, because
Oh.
she's played in the movie Video Vixen, she's played the sexy it girl, and people really didn't know her Christian identity out of choice, as she said, for a long time until she got into a relationship. And there was moments, there's an interview that she did with the pastor Torrey Roberts and her husband Devin Franklin. They did an interview at a church. It was more so like a church conference. And in that time, there was a woman who came up on stage and made a comment about, so you're not going to dress like that anymore since you're married to Pastor Franklin.
Oh.
And so there was the constant shots. Yeah, there was constant shots to her of like,
What do you think about that statement?
Me?
Yeah.
I thought it was terrible.
Yeah.
It hurt my feelings. I couldn't watch it. I heard about it, but I paused it, or like, I think I like fast forwarded because I was like, I can't take it. Because she started crying.
Do you feel like we were talking about this off camera, but I had noticed how much thinner she is now. And you were kind of reminding us off camera, like, wait, you know, be cautious of how you talk about another woman's body, which is super true. And it wasn't necessarily a judgment, but when I see somebody be so thin, it feels intentional. I always get curious about why. And you had brought up kind of like how it could be part of an image shift.
It could be. And
so
that's
could you
what
share more about that?
So she expressed wanting to change her image and change her view when she talked about cutting her hair. And then she's also, like, I follow her on Instagram, she's intentionally been working out because she wants to be able to do more fitness, karate. Like, she wants to do the action movies. And so she expressed, like, yeah, I'm in the gym consistently. And this was during and after her marriage because she's trying to get into a new audience. And I do think because, and I don't know if this is simply culture or the culture of the industry, with white women, we don't challenge their thinness. With Black women, we challenge it because there's an expectation of body. And so I think we're seeing it because when I literally had a visual of her body as we were talking, and the first thing I noticed when I did see her is how her boobs were looking. And I was like, why am I judging that her boobs are natural and look like they've just sunk in because she's lost weight? That seems like a natural thing. And the fact that she's confident and she's moving in the way that she's moving, it seems like, and she's expressing, it is based off of, I'm trying to change how people see me and what movies people put me in.
And you feel like the change is one, being fit for action movies?
Yeah, based off of how she expressed on social media, she was like working out like crazy and saying like, yeah, I'm getting strong so that I can get into these action movies.
I also feel like if you're trying to be less sexualized in the Black community, being thinner is a way to go. I'm not saying that that's exactly what she's doing, but being thinner is a way to go. What I noticed her breasts, my thought when I saw her breasts was like, oh, they're natural. Like
That's what I thought.
That's why I was like, oh, she's natural. And then I was like, oh, she lost a lot of weight. And you know how like when you lose a lot of weight, your breasts are a little like flatter.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really about that. It was actually, if I'm being transparent, it was about seeing her ribs on her chest and being curious about that. But that's my own lens because I know a lot of people with eating disorders because I work in the hospital. And I make up a story that her relationship's super unhealthy. And so I'm also like looking for signs that she's stressed, which is like not fair. I'm not a fan of her. I mean, I like her in movies, but I don't follow her on social media or anything like that, right? But I think it's just interesting how you come to something with the perception you already have and you're just like, let's see, like you're kind of looking for those things.
From my understanding and her expression, her relationship history has not been super unhealthy. Like with all of her relationships, she's expressed like it hasn't been these real big hardships of abuse and neglect and all these things. It's been, and even in this divorce that she just had, she's just like, it's been just disagreements of who we are and who I want to be. Yeah. She expressed in the Black Love, she's like, I'm a lion. I think she's a Leo. So she's like, I don't like being caged and you cannot put me in a box. And once you try to, I'm going to attack that cage. I'm going to get out. So she's expressed a lot of like, I'm not trying to be caged or locked into a certain identity.
I think for me, I have a lot of judgments around Jonathan Majors, so that's why I assume the relationship's unhealthy. It's not actually really about her. It's about how I feel about Jonathan Majors. And I just feel like the way in which he carried himself through all of that and some of the things that came out, some of the texts, some of those kinds of things weren't great. And so it's hard for me to imagine him not bringing that into their relationship. It really actually has nothing to do with her. When I'm looking at it, I'm looking for like, what's he actually like? And that's because I was like super a fan of his. We were rooting for you.
I love him.
I literally, I was obsessed.
Literally,
So
Lovecraft Country had me like
Lovecraft Country, my inner nerd, and then it was black sci-fi, and then they brought race into it. Like I was gutted they didn't make another season.
I'm so hurt.
I'm hurt. So that I see that, and that's what we do to all actors, right? We put them typecast them and whatever. Yes. What you just said made me think of something else. Meagan Good brought up in the interview. Religion came into her life from an acting coach. And I could if being transparent, like as a parent, if I wasn't religious and an acting coach like introduced that into my kid's life, I would feel a little freaked out.
I'd be pissed.
I'd be really upset. I actually think
crazy.
Even if it was well intended, I think a lot of parents are trying to share their values and like that. But then again, that changed the whole trajectory of her life, and she aligned with that, and so that's probably why it stuck, because it made sense to her. But I was like, I don't think her
parents were against it though. I don't think they were non-believers themselves. So I think that's why it wasn't. I think if it's for me specifically, like I found God at 7 or 8, and I found my church at 15. My mom didn't take me to the church, and my mom didn't go to church with me. And my dad did not have the same beliefs as me, although he grew up in the church. My mom didn't grow up in the church. So
how are your dad's beliefs different?
My dad, he says he doesn't believe in God. Or at the time he didn't. So he considers himself an Israelite. So growing up, he never shared those beliefs until I got into like my 20s. That's when he started expressing like he wants to get to know God in a different way. But I understand like that concern, because my niece, she was going to a certain youth group and she was just exploring her beliefs, and I don't have any specific way that she has to be in her spirituality. And so she was exploring with Crystal, she was exploring with a lot of different things, but she was going to a youth group that was Christian based, and one of the youth leaders had challenged that, and I came up to the place to let them know, don't do that. Period. Mind your business. You are not here to convert her into anything. You're here to help and support her as a mentor. As she believes, she believes. So I think that it makes sense to feel some type of way, especially knowing that your child is exploring in the way that they feel. And I feel like it sounds like her parents weren't against it.
Right.
And I think that's what's important.
What would you say to parents who are like, like maybe myself or whatever, like, who are like, feel like it's a boundary crossing or feel like it's overstepping, but their child is like now super, like, wants to know more, is into it. Like, how do you balance? How would you suggest parents like balance those things?
Balance in a sense of like, okay, your child is
like, this is not
your child is exploring maybe Christianity, but you feel like Christianity is not beneficial, or it's not your belief system, or all of those things.
Or just even like, this isn't how you wanted your kid to get introduced to like different, like, that just feels like something got taken away.
I want to know, I would be curious of what is your projection? Because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like a projection of your fear, your discomfort. And is your fear, discomfort interfering with your child being able to explore their identity as they comfortably feel? It's a lot of things that are acceptable and that parents are expected to be able to accept. But if that is where we draw the line of saying, now I have judgment and now I have frustration, check in with yourself. What is happening that makes you feel like you have to be in control of this space? So I would check in with projection.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because I think what comes up for me is a lot of fear around indoctrination, which is my own experience around people, right? So that makes sense. We were going to talk about Joey and Rex. So they are a couple on the latest season of Couples Therapy, which is a show on Showtime. It was originally on Showtime. I don't know what it's on now.
It is on Showtime.
Okay.
Yes.
But basically a therapist does therapy with around 4 couples over a period of time, a set period of time. And then they show like clips. Thank you. They show like clips from their therapy, and you get to see like glimpses into like what the couples are working on, what they're talking about, and then like some of the changes that have occurred over time. And this is one of the couples. They're Joey and Rex. If anybody wants to like fill in the details where I missed things, because it's been a little bit since I watched this, but they've been together for several years. She grew up in a Christian household with a mom who
is very Christian.
And her goal and intention was to marry another person who was Christian. However, she met Rex. Okay, I'm like, which one was it? She met Rex, who at the time was an atheist, I think.
Yes.
I think he didn't say he was an atheist.
Agnostic,
he said
maybe?
He did have a belief system, but it was just different.
And his family practices Buddhism.
Yeah, that's what he shared. He said that he wasn't like in it, but he practices Buddhism.
And then they were able to have a casual relationship that was really fun and free, that developed into like this emotional relationship where they decided that they wanted to be connected, stay together, get married. And then as they got married, he has started practicing within her Christian belief system, kind of. Seems like he's been going to church, but also still trying to maintain some of his own traditions and family. And on top of it, because he was not I actually don't know why, to be honest. We didn't really find out why, but mom is pretty opposed to him. I think one assumption I can make is around religion, but I think it's more than that. And
there's some trauma in the family.
She ended up helping her mom move out in order to create more stability in her marriage. And it kind of felt like even though her mom wasn't living there, she might as well have been. She was still very prevalent and prominent in Joey and how Joey felt. And Joey was still figuring out, like, how do I maintain who I am as a person and be with this guy who maybe practices in ways that I don't agree with. I don't know. What did you guys kind of see from the couple?
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this wonderful check-in, but it got a little too personal. So if you'd like to hear the rest of it, subscribe to us on Patreon. Now, back to the show.
That was, yeah.
And so, and again, that not to make it, no, I was gonna say not to make it be like, well, religion is the same as this, because I think they're two separate things. But
Absolutely.
What I'm hearing you say is like, even in her relationship with God, her mom's enmeshed. And that's like part of the development that she's lacking. Like how I would say, oh, you have to develop your own core values, beliefs, etc. And you'd be like, and she needs to develop her own relationship with God because she don't got it. So let's end on this. I know it's late. Last question. You brought this up before we shot. I thought it was really interesting. You asked whether or not kind of what our perspective is on people using therapy as a religion.
Oh, yeah, that was brought up. Yeah.
How would you phrase the question more?
I was curious. I mean, it was based off of something that you sent me, and I was like, I do definitely feel like therapy has become like, you use the language values instead of beliefs and things like that. And so, and then it's also this one or the other. And so the controversy that the two cannot exist, and how that's been a constant thing, and not just therapists, but also people in religious groups or people that are spiritual leaders have this distance, and that's a whole nother thing. Culturally, but have this distance and feel safer believing something else than the other thing, and feel like we can't do both. And if you do both, then I have a question mark for you. Right. So both I've seen on other ends where the spiritual leaders are like, because anxiety is of the devil, and to bring up that is da-da-da. And then I've seen people on the other end of therapy that's like, well, I have issue with the religious beliefs because I think that it is something that is harmful in some type of way. So it's to me, it's like it's not that it becomes religion, but it becomes a battle. It becomes a battle of the two when they come together, similar to that therapy session. There is a fear and there is a discomfort, and how far can I help you? And I see that in my own clients who are coming in, as I expressed, and feeling uncomfortable even sharing their beliefs, because they're like, well, how do I show up, or how do I even express that I have this belief if I know that I might be seen as like Delulu?
You're in like a secular system trying to talk about beliefs, trying to talk about something that isn't secular, trying to talk about something that isn't evidence-based or whatever it is. And so I think I agree. It's almost like people who are secular who don't come from that same like faith background believe that it's like almost like not as trustworthy.
Yeah.
And I think I've held that same like feeling, that same belief. Like there's just something like I don't, and it's because I don't understand or I don't get or whatever the thing is. But it's like let's not bring that into the room because I don't know how to talk about it or deal with it. I don't want to offend you. And like I don't get it.
There's a lot of shame too, because when people think of religion, they're like, well, you hate these type of people, or you hate this and you hate this. This is what I know religion to be, is you hate the people that I love or who I am. So I don't accept you and I don't see how we can all exist. Because for me, that's what I notice is it's hard to accept that because you're like, well, you don't accept this part. Or religion, I've learned people in religion, it's harmed me in some way. So, no. We don't bring that up in this space. This isn't comfortable. And again, that's a part of, for me, what I identify as a lack of relationship.
Yeah.
I think for me, where faith and therapy become like a difficult cross, where I do start to feel like a little nervous, is not when people talk about it. I'm very comfortable talking about faith because I'm very comfortable talking about things I don't know a lot about. Like I think if you just lean on curiosity and empathy, it gets you pretty far. But the intersect that's hard for me is when I see somebody who has mental health and their true belief is the reason they have mental health is because they're not strong in their faith or they're not strong in their relationship with God. And that's the only reason.
Yeah.
That becomes difficult for me because I feel like there's a lot of shame and self-blame in that language and talk. And so then it becomes like to think that the only thing that it would be similar but different to someone being like, I'm only going to meditate and that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do nothing else. I know that faith is a lot more expansive than that. And it comes with a community, which is not meditating by yourself does not come with, right? But I think I encounter a good amount of people who are genuinely angry at themselves because they believe that the reason that this is happening to them, whatever it is because they've failed in their faith. And the only way they want to work on their mental health is strengthening their faith. And it's hard as a therapist to know what to do with that because I'm like, we could have Jesus and a therapist. Like, can we
do both?
Can we do both? You know, but I think some people are like, no, the faith thing is so much more important. I feel more comfortable in it. I feel more seen in it. I'm just going to do that.
Yeah, and there's history about that, right? Yeah. Because, again, we have to identify, if we're talking about Black culture, let's keep it a buck. Therapy wasn't for us.
Right,
and
it wasn't.
We were very abused in it. And so what we did know, even Christianity wasn't for us and when it came to the way that Europeans were trying to project it onto us. But, again, Christianity didn't start in America. It started over there. So we know the roots of our culture. So we know that.
Yeah.
This stuff that y'all just made up,
for us.
We don't know that. And we know that y'all been disrespecting us, mistreating us, and misusing us. So I'm going to trust my religion.
Right.
I'm going to trust my God because my God has gotten us through, okay, consecutive, like for years, generationally. And so, and also as you share that, I think the fear that, and that's where I noticed there's a lot of like, even with my therapist, like I bring it up and she's like, and I'm like, don't get scared. Don't get scared because although I'm saying that I have this concern of, because I went through that battle of, oh my goodness, I failed. Similar to Meagan Good, I failed God. And the reality is I learned I did not have a relationship with God because to assume that I am that big in God's life to be able to fail him is wild, right? And so I think it's important to be able to help that client get to an understanding of, let's talk about how you build relationship and understanding of who God is. Because like similar to that woman, you are seeing God as your father, but the way that you're assuming him is you're not safe in relationship with him.
Right. And I think for me, to give like context to what I'm working with, right, I'm getting a lot of people who aren't voluntary. And so when I'm feeling, nervous about like you only want to do faith work, if you're being hospitalized involuntarily, like your mental health's in a severe place, you're not just anxious.
Yeah.
Or you're not just dissatisfied and have like moderate depression, you have severe depression. And what ends up being my fear is like you have so much shame around feeling as a Christian that you're not going to lean on the Christians, which is your community, for support. Like so it's like how do we ingrain that?
Because
that's the thing, it's not
and that's not about Christianity. No, that's about feeling like everybody around you has a belief system that they're doing better than you and you're not living up to it, so you feel shame in sharing
But
it.
that's really common.
No, it
You're
is.
gonna isolate. Like, again, in the process, isolation. And even with Meagan Good, isolation. Like, it's gonna happen. And that is where I know, and we do, you know, strive off of community, but that's a really big and common thing. People leave the church every day. People feel like I failed, I shamed, I gotta leave. And again, that's because of lack of relationship and understanding of who you are and who you are in God's eyes. And being able to identify that and being able to help the client get into that. Maybe not encourage community at this time, but encourage identity in God, encourage relationship in God, encourage understanding of who God actually sees you as and who you are assuming that he sees you as. Where is that idea coming from that you are so big that you're disappointing him in some way? Where is that idea coming from? And that is where
it usually comes from their parents, to be honest.
Exactly.
When I delve deeper, because I actually don't shy away from it. I'm very like, let's go. Like, I'm very like,
that's important.
Because again, a lot of people I'm working with are thinking about life and death. I can't think of something more important than your spirituality when you're talking about life and death. So I'm leaning in.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from messaging from their parents. They tell their parents how they're feeling, and their parents tell them to pray about it.
And it's not working.
And then and it doesn't work. And then they feel like, I fail as a Christian because praying about it should be enough.
I failed as a Christian because praying about it should be enough. I failed because I should be going to church. I'm assuming that God is this genie in the bottle, that he told me my life will be great and grand, and if I do everything right, similar to what Meagan Good said, I did everything right.
Yeah.
So in my rightness, I should get this. My pastor told me something, and the thing is, it was so funny because when I discovered that story of Elijah, this downloaded, and this was something that he shared when I was in high school, probably. It wasn't directly to me. It was a sermon, but he said, "You may be all right, but you will never be all right." Meaning, you're AL right, but you will never be ALL right. And he was saying that to say, you are flesh and blood. You are not God. You do not have the ability. And there's a word in there that says, like, you do not have the ability to be all right. Only he has that. And that is where you lean.
Yeah.
But you're going to fail.
Okay, perfectionism.
You're going to, literally, that's what it, and that's
we've
what
talked about that a lot.
It goes into that.
Yeah. I just got excited when you were saying that, because there's this last thing. This is a loaded question. I don't mean it loaded. So redo it however you want. And then we're about to wrap. There's a lot of the other dynamic that I work with. A lot are people who are queer or identify as queer in a different way. And that's me being very general. They could be trans or they could be whatever.
Right.
I have a sect of people. I would say there's like, actually, I'd say there's like 4 groups of families I work with. There's like the families who are like completely non-religious. They don't talk about their spirituality, so it's a non-factor. There are the families who have a perception of basically like God doesn't make mistakes. He's all accepting. It'll be okay. You are who you're supposed to be. There are the families who are trying to be supportive of their kid, and the kid hates themselves because they feel like they're not living up to the word of God. And then there are the families where the kid is trying to be themselves and they're shutting them down because of the word of God, right? And it's really interesting. The reason why I bring up these 4 differences is because I literally think they could all be looking at the same scripture and take something different away from it, right? So that's 1. But 2, like, in terms of as a therapist, and like, do you work with people at all who are struggling with their sexuality or their identity and how it interacts with their faith? I'm curious.
The client that I was working with, however, them bringing up wanting to get closer to God, they didn't have a question mark if God was going to accept them because of
their religion, their relationship to God.
Their identity.
Oh, okay.
And what they had was their own acceptance of their identity. And now wanting to get closer to God. So it wasn't that, oh, God's not going to accept me because of how I identify. It was, I am challenging and judging myself because of how I identify because of XYZ LMP, which is mainly family. And so that was my one experience where I worked with a trans woman who was just like, I want to get closer to God and I want to build my relationship. And it was just never a question for them. So I don't have the experience of both of those things existing, because for her, it was just really, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what that looks like to get closer and to build a relationship with God.
Do you feel like when people share like their understanding of God is that he doesn't accept those things, where do you even begin to start working with somebody who has people around them thinking like that?
Yeah, that's the tough part of projection. But I think a lot of religious beliefs is projection of what other people want you to believe about God. And that is where I say, and I'm repeating myself, but build your own relationship, build your own context of what the Bible says too. Because when I say the misinterpretation is huge and people use the Bible as like, I'm a take this and I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna take this. Like, I think I was reading, was it Samuel? But you know the verse that says,
We don't
he
know
that
the
finds
verse.
he that finds a good wife finds a good thing.
Yeah.
And then y'all don't if I'm wrong, but from my memory, it was I believe Samuel who said this, or one of the people in the Bible who had like 400 wives.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, context. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's read the full thing. But this is something that is spread wildly.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, read for yourself and get to know for yourself and see what is God actually saying.
Right.
And get to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just know, and people also like to say, God is the same God. He ain't never changed. And I'm like, okay, I understand it. But when I'm observing and reading for myself, I do see him showing up in certain ways that I would assume looks a little different. But again, that's me reading for myself and getting my own interpretation. And even as I just shared this, the story of Elijah, I have a study Bible, and underneath it kind of like gives little detail and little hints or more deeper description. And there was a part in there that was like, God was showing frustration towards Elijah. And I'm like, no, he wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He never expressed frustration. The only emotion that has been expressed was gentleness. But people can interpret it how they want to.
Sounds like what you're saying is like, in order, the more solid you are in your relationship with God, or the more solid you are in like your own faith, the less you can be impacted by this kind of outer stuff.
Yeah, and that's what's really important. I think I have a privilege of coming from that space because I had the free will to be able to discover God for who I wanted, like how I wanted. So I got to choose my own church. I got to experience going to church independently when I got to college and finding friends that were a part of that. And so, and even like as I got older, being able to grow in my relationship and in my feelings of failure and disappointment and scared and, oh, I'm not going to church as much and all that stuff. And it took a minute, and there is going to be shame. And let's talk about the shame. Let's talk about the acceptance of self, because that is really what I want to talk about, is the acceptance of self and how because again, we're always going to project something. If we have an issue and an insecurity, I was just talking to a client about that. If I'm coming in and I'm like, I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, something's wrong with me, I'm going out into the world, and that's the lens.
Right.
The world does not exempt God. Because if I'm going out into the world thinking I'm stupid, I'm a failure, I'm all these bad things, I'm also going to God feeling the same way.
Yeah. I feel that.
So
I think that's a good place to end.
Okay.
We loved having you.
I had fun.
Yes. Go back and talk about all the other shit.
You really made me be like, yeah, I need to fill in some gaps.
Me too.
Some gaps.
Me too.
I'll see y'all guys soon.
Thank
you.
I'm sorry.
It's the end of the weekend, but I still wanna turn up. Yeah, I still wanna turn up. All I want is to go again, but you ain't picking your phone up. Why you messing my head up?
MBC. No relation to NBC.